Regular session of the Maury County Board of Education. First item of business, we'll take the roll. Ms. Parker, Mr. Morrison, Ms. Martin, Mr. Pennings,
Here.
Mr. Moore,
Here.
Mr. Lassiter, Mr. Bates is present, Mr. Beaver,
Here.
Ms. Powers, Mr. Lindsay, Mr. Dudley. All right, so we do have 6 members here, so we have a quorum. We can go ahead and get started. What we're going to do first, we are going to take the Pledge of Allegiance, and that's going to, we've got Mount Pleasant High School, I think, is going to help us with that pledge. Is that right? Maybe they forgot. So we'll have,
Oh, they're here.
okay. So what we'll do, we'll have Mount Pleasant High School that will lead us in the pledge, and then immediately following the pledge, we're going to remain standing to take a moment of silence, okay? All right, we first need to adopt an agenda. I have been informed of a few additions to the agenda. Under Roman numeral 3, we have an addition. It's going to be item F, teacher staff proclamation. Okay. And then also, Mr. Beaver, you've requested to add, and we're going to add this under new business, if there are no objections, under Roman numeral 9, there will be a new section, Section B, Boys and Girls Before and After School Program. Is that correct? Okay. All right, and is there any objections to adding that to the agenda? Okay. All right, with that, do we have any other additions or revisions to the agenda? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as revised? Motion by Mr. Beaver, second by Mr. Pennings. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. That motion does pass, 6-0. All right, we're ready to proceed with our agenda now. First section, we have recognitions and announcements, and Dr. Myers-Zach, it looks like the first item is introduction.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a couple months ago, you guys will remember that I came and requested for a position to be added, a supervisor of counseling and mental health. We went through the process of putting out a job description, doing interviews, and I'm happy to say that we did select somebody. He started right at the end of March, and I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Rob Killen, and he'll come up to the mic at this time and talk to you a little bit and tell you a little bit about himself. So please welcome Dr. Killen, our supervisor of counseling and mental health.
All right, started in March, as Dr. Marzak said, and have been busily going around to schools. I think I visited at 19 of the 22 so far, and meeting with community resources and taking a survey of the state of the county as far as mental health and counseling services and so forth, and have just enjoyed every minute of so far. Really glad to be here and excited to get going and help us improve what we're serving the students.
Well, Dr. Killian, on behalf of the board, I want to welcome you. And since you're here and you're new on the job, I do want to go over some things. As the chairman, I have wanted our board to do some examination of our disciplinary policies, including our bullying policies and procedures. And I've asked Ms. Parker, she's graciously agreed in our June policy meeting, we're actually going to do an examination of what our current policies and procedures are. And with your background, before we have that June meeting and policy, I've asked the director to do an internal examination of our disciplinary policies and procedures. And with your background, would you be able to, I guess, assist him in that examination of our current policies and procedures, and maybe from a perspective of a bullying standpoint?
Absolutely, yeah. I'd be happy to do that.
We're glad to have you on board, and we look forward to those future meetings and getting your input on that.
All right, thank you. Glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next announcement and recognition. We have Miss Kathy. Looks like you've got a few recognitions that you would like to make.
I have brought with me Miss Cindy Short from the Mary Regional Hospital, and she wants to tell you a little bit about the MASH program.
I'm happy to be here tonight. You all were proud that you have supported our program for the last 5 years. This is our 6th year for the MASH program, and it actually replaced our junior volunteer program. We have 25 students. We get about 70 to 75 applications every year, but unfortunately we can only take 25 for our 2-week session. It's a very competitive program. The students go through a in-depth interview process, an in-depth application. They have to present copies of their transcript, but it is a fabulous 2-week program. The students, it's hands-on learning. So we start on day 1 with Columbia State, where they learn about the application process. We visit each department in the hospital and over the next several days, and then we are involved in a disaster drill where the students are actually moulaged up. They are the victims in a disaster, which helps meet requirements of the Joint Commission, for the hospital. The students this year, we have 12 from Murray County, and we have one past student here. Ashley Dodson was in our MASH program, and she was a representative of Girl State. And over the last 2 years, we have 9 students that have been in the top 10 for their schools. So we're proud of that. But it is a great program, and again, we appreciate your support. And I think all the students that apply and go through the process should be commended. I have staff that helps me with the interview process, and we all commented this year that they did a much better job on that side of the table that we would have done at their age. So they really do need to be commended. I've got from Central High School, I've got Shelby Rowling. I've got Ben Tomlin. I've got Kylie Wood. Alexis Yoakley.
Believe me, they are definitely busy somewhere.
From Hampshire, we have Claire McGee. And they are busy because Claire actually works part-time and she's a junior volunteer also. Caitlin Stanfield. Okay. Alexa Cathy. She had to be here, didn't she? And Lindsay Truelove. From Spring Hill, we have Amanda Bennett, Melody Brink, Easton Carlton, and Divi Patel. And one thing I'd like to say too is I think the unit schools, when these students are accepted, it's a big honor for them. This is the most we've had from Hampshire, but they don't have the extra classes that a lot of the students have, a lot of the public, the larger schools have, so they really do need to be commended. So anyway, thank you.
All right. Well, I definitely want to congratulate all those students, and thank you, Ms. Short, and thank you to Murray Regional for your partnership with our schools for this program. We really appreciate that. All right, Ms. Miller, I believe you've got some recognitions as well.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, School Board. This is an exciting time in high schools for our seniors as they are getting ready to graduate and getting all their honors presented to them. So we have several recognitions to make tonight to our seniors, but before we get to the seniors, we want to recognize our juniors who have been selected to attend Girls State and Boys State this summer. So from Central High School, I have Kayla Ponwitz. Sorry, sirs. From Central, Annabelle Carnahan. From Central, Kara Potts. Boys State delegates from Central, Wesley Baxter. William Fisher, Tommy Quinn, John Allen Stone. From Culleoka Unit School, Girls State delegates, Alexandra Monroe, Bailey Warren. Many of these students are playing ball somewhere, I guarantee you. Culleoka Unit School Boys State, Dylan Lindsay. And Jasper Stanfield. Girls State delegates from Hampshire Unit School, Georgia Varble. Boys State, Austin Malusian. Christopher Baldwin. Girls State delegates from Mount Pleasant High School, Brittany Riggins. Carly Pugh. Boys State, Connor Underwood. Girls State from Santa Fe Unit School, Cheyenne Martin. Boys State, Dalton Tillman. Boys State from Spring Hill High School, Alexio Guzman. Nicholas Clift. Robert Reeves. Girls State, Anna Brewer, Ashley Moyers, and Sarah Lockridge. This is a great honor for these students, and again, I'm sure that they're all busy tonight, but let's give them a round of applause. Our next set of recognitions is our 2015-16 Governor's School. I'm always impressed with the governor's schools that these students get into. Sometimes I think I don't even know what we're talking about when I read the names of some of these governor's schools. From Spring Hill High School, Jamie Hepp will be in the Tennessee Heritage at East Tennessee State University. From Spring Hill High School, Abigail Griggs, will be in Tennessee Heritage, also at East Tennessee State University. Central High School, Sydney Hay will be in the Humanities Governor School at University of Tennessee Martin. And Alexis Seacrest from Central will also be in the Humanities at University of Tennessee Martin. Let's give these students a round of applause. And we will probably continue to have a few governor school candidates selected over the next few days. They tend to trickle in here toward the end of the year. And now for the exciting time for our seniors. These students have worked very diligently for the last 4 years in high school, and it is a real honor to be recognized as valedictorian or salutatorian of their class. So from Central High School, the valedictorian, William Smith. Salutatorian, Jackson Mahundro. Culleoka Unit School, valedictorian, Graceland Bowers. Salutatorian, Samuel Adkins.
They're all studying.
Hampshire Unit School, valedictorian, Madeline Brooks. Salutatorian, Seth Grimmett. Mount Pleasant High School, valedictorian, Brooke Boshears. And salutatorian, Megan Eastep. Santa Fe Unit School, valedictorian, Ashley Dodson. Salutatorian, Megan Lusk. Spring Hill High School, valedictorian, Dorothy Rachel Hicks. Salutatorian, Tara Crow. Congratulations to each of these students for their hard work. Thank you, sir.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take about a 5-minute recess. We will reconvene at 6:25. 6:25. All right, we're going to go ahead and start coming back to order. All right, so again, we're going to go ahead and start coming back to order so we can go ahead and get through the agenda. Ms. Shirley, I don't know if you've already done this or not, but the minutes need to reflect that Ms. Parker, Mr. Morrison, and Ms. Martin are now present. Thank you. All right, so we got one more item on the recognitions. We have our teacher staff proclamation, and I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Marzak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So I'd like to read a proclamation by the Murray County Mayor, Mr. Charlie Norman. Whereas teachers, administration, staff members, SROs, crossing guards, food service, and maintenance technicians are the key to accomplishing the mission of the Murray County Public Schools to provide a world-class education for every single student in every single school in the district. And whereas the relationship forged between the teacher, staff, and students can change the lives of kids and unlock a brighter future for them. And whereas our teachers work daily to open the world of learning to their students, holding them to high expectations, challenging them to think critically, and pushing them to excel in the face of any obstacle, and guiding their development as citizens. And whereas, under the expert direction of our talented teaching staff, classrooms throughout Murray County come to life and become places where kids have the opportunity to display creativity and imagination and develop a passion for learning that will last a lifetime. And whereas excellent teaching is a labor of love, and our dedicated professionals often use their own resources and work evenings and weekends to enhance and enrich the daily learning experiences of students with innovative and individualized lessons. And whereas educators in Murray County shape the future of our community and nation as they work each day to prepare our students to compete globally. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Charlie Norman, County Mayor of Murray County, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim May 2nd through May 6, 2016 as Teacher Staff Appreciation Week. In Murray County, and do call upon the citizens of this county in joining with me in paying honor and respect to all teachers, staff, and the outstanding service they provide to the community. In witness whereof, I have hereunto sent my hand and caused this seal of this county to be affixed on this 26th day of April, 2016. Sincerely, Charlie Norman, Murray County Mayor.
All right, good proclamation. All right, we'll next hear from the Murray County Education Association. Mr. Huebner, thanks for coming today.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Marzak, thank you for that proclamation. It was nice. One thing I've learned about Dr. Marzak when we meet, he takes a lot of notes. So I know he always takes notes and writes things down, and there's a couple of things. If you'll, I've got a brief comment to make. Good stuff tonight. And then I've also asked Caitlin McCullum, who's a teacher at our school and a graduate of Central High as well, to talk about something else. Our combined time would probably be less than I normally do. But in reference to the kids that weren't here for MASH, I do know several of them are decorating for the prom right now. If you don't know it yet, it's such a great idea. Alumni prom tomorrow night. This may be one of the first, if ever, we've done. It's a sad time for many because the gym will be gone within the year. And there's going to be several hundred there, and I hope some of you are part of it. Some folks out here have told me they're going to be there. I don't know. You're making an appearance, aren't you, at one of them? Yeah, I think we saw that. Somebody asked you. And then the student prom is Saturday night. So Mr. Mark Orman, our teacher, who's vice president of MCA, is busy doing that. He's excellent at doing that. So I wanted to commend him and thank you for all those announcements you made. As we get close to the end of the school year, from teachers, we've been hearing a lot of thoughts about Tennessee Ready and testing in general, and I'm not going to go there. It looks like the state has taken that lead, and I'm glad to say that Murray County did procedures correctly. I'm very proud of what our teachers did. When I say we've walked the floor a lot, this week on Tuesday I did 4.5 straight hours of monitoring a test with occasional bathroom breaks, and I don't like to sit still, so I just watched kids. And one question that arose in that, there was about 150 students in that library. If you haven't seen the library at Central, it's no longer a library, it's a testing center because everything's being moved. But we had about 150 students in there taking English tests. Most of them, wonderful students, they took the test, they participated, they did a great job, but it was disheartening to see about 10 students that didn't confront us, didn't raise any voices, but just sat there and refused to open the booklet. And I don't think that's our history as a nation where we have people to that degree participating. That's a pretty good percentage. I'm just wondering, and this may be something that you can address in policy in June, since that's when you're meeting, what the penalties are. We're not trying to kill off a student's future, but basically that brings down the average of the whole school. The evaluation process is not accurate. It can hurt the school scores if those students don't take that test at all. And they're addressed and talked to by administrators, but I'm not sure what the consequences could be. I'm not wise enough to know that, but it really bothers me that they would do that kind of thing and not participate. I don't know if it's a game or what. I don't think it's because they're exhausted from testing, because many kids are and they participate. But because of that, teachers and others at the schools suffer in the ratings, and achievements met or not met in evaluations. It skews the evaluation process. So I want to encourage, if that's not a county policy, and I'm unclear on that, but if that's not a county policy, I'd like you to address, I know you talk to Dr. McQueen a lot, and to address the state Department of Education if that can be changed, because it doesn't sound, I'm sure the audience would agree here, it doesn't sound like a very fair policy that we're penalized for students that don't participate. And maybe you can enlighten us on that. It just lacks common sense, and it's just another example. It ends up being schools and teachers being punished. And we're not always here to cry about, woe the teachers, but it really is unfair, and hope that you can adjust that. And maybe not only make the students accountable, but parents accountable in those situations as well. And that's part of what I know you're trying to do in Maury County, is bring parents more in the system. I don't know if you have a comment to that or just want to address that in June.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Huberner. So this morning, many superintendents, we've been on the horn on superintendent listservs talking about testing and talking about what's going on and what's happening. And many superintendents have expressed the same thing. They notice a lot of their high school students just refusing to take the test, not being defiant, but just sitting there and refusing to take the test. And unfortunately, what happens is when a student refuses to take the test, then that goes into an absentee. And if we don't have at least 95% participation, then all of the test results are invalid for an entire school or an entire county. So it can impact a lot of things, and basically systems come in need of improvement when not enough students take the test. So it's almost like they just didn't show up for school, or schools told them to stay home if they don't have their test completed. So it can impact our district negatively if we have students that refuse to take the test.
And that kind of parallels what was said Tuesday night with the good article in the paper about that too, that you met and you had the business leaders and so forth, that we have such a high absentee rate in our county. That hurts us in so many ways. You know, federal funding too. So that's something I hope you look at and can address in policy time, and I appreciate that update on that. And I want to ask Ms. McCullum to come up here right now and talk to us briefly. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Good afternoon. I will make this short and sweet, or maybe perhaps bittersweet, a couple lines, but short nonetheless. I am here not to represent myself, but my colleagues across my school and across the county, as well as the MCEA. In Central, I have evolved as one that my colleagues come to talk about issues or questions that they might have with bringing Maury County into the future. Something that is very near and dear to my heart, as David mentioned, being a graduate of this county and coming back to teach here. So some of these things I would like to share with you, and they are related to our substitute teacher, or the lack of substitute teachers, I would say, in our county. In conversation with teachers across Maury County, one common grievance is the attracting and retaining of professional substitutes. As the years progress, we have received more and more calls to cover classes due to the lack of subs. In my research with Kingsport City Schools and Dobbins Bennett, and speaking with their superintendent, I simply came out and asked him, "What do you do in this same situation?" And he said, "We never ask teachers to cover another class. We as administrators would step in and cover that class before we ever took the time away from a teacher, the time that they hold as being very sacred to plan and be professional for the next day, something that we are evaluated on." When we do have subs, we do notice a grave lack in sub training. And when this is brought up, we are simply told there already is training. But I would like to voice that we do believe that it is inadequate, as we often find unprofessional subs, for example, doing their manicures in front of class, conversating with the students about their personal lives, arguing about the students or with the students, and in a particular school in the county, even possibly threatening a student. And that is something that we cannot have here in Maury County. We would like to change also the expectation that subs are not babysitters. They are just as crucial and vital to the everyday life of a school as we are as licensed educators. One educator at Central even brought up the idea of having professional subs on retainer working full-time Monday through Friday, so that any position that needed to be filled. I think it's very hard to find a school that has every single teacher there, especially a school as large as Central, every single teacher there every day. And if we had a substitute or multiple that could be there Monday through Friday and be put into whatever hole they needed to be in, that would easily cover some of the issues that we have at this time. Ultimately, though, there is a line between being helpful to our county, which we all would like to be, and abusing such requests for help. Especially this week with testing, we do our best to help in any way that we can, but it is frustrating to have the 1 or 2 planning periods that we have a week taken because the county cannot cover a sub when the absence has been filed in the computer 2 weeks prior. Another issue is the ethicality of taking the day from the absentee and not giving that money to someone in return. This is the question that I continue to hear. If it does not pay the sub, where then does the money go? Looking to other school systems and our current situation with subs, I do not think that we have an option but to improve the mentioned items so that we are a competitive school system that attracts and retains professional educators and substitute teachers for the future. Like I said, this county means a lot to me, and I hope to see great things, especially in this area, into the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And as always, we appreciate the input from our teachers, and this is very useful information for the board to maybe start looking at some of these things, which the board has been looking at the substitute teacher issue, and we will continue to look at that issue. So we appreciate your input. Thank you. All right, next item, we have public delegations. If I could ask an officer to maybe check our sign-up sheet, see if anybody signed up. All right, so we do have some people that have signed up to speak to us tonight. Just want to briefly, just to give everybody just an overview of the procedures that we have in place whenever somebody signs up. We always, as a board, we always appreciate public input. We want to get more information that helps the board to be able to make better decisions. So we're always appreciative when people sign up to speak to us. Please keep in mind that the public delegation part is for input. So we're taking in information. It's not a venue where we have a debate back and forth, that sort of thing. What we are doing is trying to get information, and so that's what we're actually hoping to get tonight. We do have some rules in place that help move things along. There is a 5-minute limit that we have a policy for each person. And then also, if you'll keep in mind, whenever you come up to the podium, when I call your name, if you'll just first state your name, your address, and what the subject is that you would like to speak to. And so with that, we'll go ahead and get started. The first person that we have signed up is Ms. Donna Cook. It's always good to have one of our honorable commissioners to come to speak to us, so.
That's right. We have to work together, right? Okay. My name is Donna Cook. I am a Maury County Commissioner that represents the people that live in District 1. My home address is 215 Apache Trail, Columbia, Tennessee, and I'm speaking tonight in regards to your bully policy. I wanted to start out by thanking our Director of Schools, Dr. Chris Marzak, for giving us this opportunity to talk about your bully policy in Maury County Schools. I would also like to thank Chairman David Bates and all the school board members who are working together to make Maury County #1 in the state of Tennessee. And my standard's like way up here. So, I recently learned that one of my constituents, the Troy Coleman family, child was being bullied in one of our Maury County schools. I've come here tonight to speak to you, urging the Director of Schools along with the board to work together with our new mental health director, Dr. Killen, to modify our current policy regarding bullying. A child isn't born to bully. This behavior is learned from someone with access to that child, a parent, a sibling, a role model, a caregiver, that teaches that bullying other children is acceptable and in some cases expected and tolerated. Over time, when a child becomes a victim of bullying, it teaches the child that school is not a safe place to be, and school becomes a place to fear and to avoid, and learning suffers. Currently, according to our Educational Commissioner, McQueen, the state of Tennessee average for absenteeism is 13%. However, Maury County schools absenteeism is 30%. The bully and the victim of bullying, if not treated with positive counseling, can look forward to a lifetime of failures in relationships, educational opportunities. The bully and the victim are in fact both victims, because if left untreated, this behavior can lead to antisocial behavior, domestic violence, incarceration, death, and or suicide in some individuals. According to the Maury County, Tennessee website, you promote components of a comprehensive school health program, a coordinated approach, or CSH, which is an effective system designed to connect health, physical, emotional, and social with education. One of these components is healthy school environment. The physical, emotional, and social climate of the school is designed to provide a safe physical place, as well as a healthy, supportive environment that fosters learning. Unfortunately, the current bullying policy requires suspension, which doesn't address the underlying problem of the learned behavior of bullying. I would like to see the current bullying policy to be amended to include bullying at a zero tolerance level, for the child that is bullying to be immediately removed from our regular student body, to be sent to our alternative school, and for the bully and the victim to attend anti-bullying counseling sessions along with their family as well. When our children attend school, this must be an effective system designed to connect health, physical, emotional, and social climate of the school, a place designed to provide a safe physical environment as well as a healthy and supportive environment that fosters learning. Unfortunately, unless the current bully policy is amended, the components of a comprehensive school health program, or CSH, which you promote on your website, will not work. Thank you for your time and energy, as well as working together to make Maury County Schools #1 in the state of Tennessee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cook, and we certainly appreciate your input. Thank you. All right, next person that signed up is Mr. Troy Coleman. How you doing, Mr. Coleman?
Good evening. How are you?
Just fine.
My name is Troy Coleman. My home address, 919 Sam Johnson Road, Columbia, Tennessee. Good evening. When we think of what makes our society great, we must certainly think of our children. The kids are our future leaders, legislators in our halls of Congress, and teachers to the generations that follow them. As parents, we strive to provide our children with the blueprint to success, as well as good citizenship. And as a community, we work to make sure that we help keep our neighborhoods clean and our schools safe. We understand the importance of keeping our schools safe because our public schools are the institutions where our kids, not just mine, but all of our kids go to learn in a safe and nurturing environment. In a perfect scenario, our kids would be able to attend school and learn in a safe environment free from bullying, intimidation, and harassment. They would be able to learn in an environment free from ridicule and taunting. However, in the real world, in our Murray County, our public school system is facing challenges in the area of bullying in our schools. We see bullying recently in one of our high schools that was so newsworthy that the cell phone video of the incident went viral on social media. We hear about it in our middle schools, and I know bullying goes on in our middle schools because I spend time going around and talking with the students during the Teen Suicide Prevention and Anti-Bullying presentation given by the Cowboy Up program. And I know for certain bullying is happening in our elementary schools because now one of my sons has recently been the target of bullying on a repeated basis in the 3rd grade. My son is a special education student who enjoys school and does well. However, he learns differently and meets or exceeds expectations in spite of the challenges autism presents. So when being bullied enters the equation, his difficulty is magnified because he didn't want to participate in class as much and he didn't pay as much attention in class because he remained on the alert and focused on the classmate who bullied him repeatedly. My wife and I are thankful that the principal, vice principal, and the teaching staff acted swiftly and in each instance handled each incident according to the Murray County Schools rules and procedures. However, the aggressor in this particular case has a reputation for being a repeat offender. So my family has a strong concern about a student being sent back to school again and again by the district when it would appear that the aggressive student might need to be placed in an alternative learning environment where the student can be evaluated and proper plan for behavioral change can be implemented and completed prior to being sent back to regular school. Bullying in Murray County Public Schools is a system-wide issue. As recently as October 2013, the Columbia Daily Herald reported that for the 2012-2013 school year, Murray County schools ranked as high as 5th in the state in bullying incidents. Ironically, July 2012 was the last time the district policy on bullying was revised. Even more concerning, the district policy regarding the disciplinary hearing authority was last revised in February of 2009. This means that the policy on bullying and the standards of discipline may most likely not be current to the national standard. And I mention the national standard because as a Title I school district, if Murray County Public Schools does not remain up to national standards, our district may have an opportunity to lose federal funding. Bullying another student can actually activate a federal investigation, especially in instances when the target of the bullying behavior is a special needs student. As Murray County Public Schools reevaluates its policies on bullying and intimidation as well as the standards of discipline, please be sure to examine the need for evaluation of the repeat offenders and the development of a behavioral change program to be implemented and completed prior to returning to regular school. My family is dedicated to working along with the school board and the Board of Education and all the schools involved to make sure that the policy and procedural change and their implementation in order to provide a safe learning environment for all students in Murray County Public Schools. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Coleman. We really appreciate your input. All right, next person that has signed up, Mr. William Roddy. Good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming.
Good to see you, Dr. Mazak and Mr. Bailey and ladies and gentlemen of the school board. Not very often we see these gentlemen, and when we do, we call a 5-minute break and hide our billfolds at the county commission. And I don't have any money with me either, so, you know. I am a 10th district commissioner which covers Mount Pleasant High School. And recently I had a phone call from a person that called me and asked me I need to look on the internet, I need to see something. And what I saw was this case of bullying this student. And it was very sickening. It was a terrible thing. I've seen a lot of stuff, and it was, and done a lot of stuff, but that was one of the most cowardly acts I ever seen. And if you hadn't seen it, you should have seen it. He was going down the hall. This young man and this guy that hit him was behind him. Come around a corner, completely sucker punched him with just all the might that he had. Hit this young man. Didn't even know it was coming, broke both sides of his jaw, his nose, and 2 or 3 places on his head. And I'm not here to blame anybody for anything, and we should have done this, or should have done that. But what I have a problem with and is the procedure that's taking place. It needs to be updated, and it should, in my opinion and other opinion, it should be on the civil order of from miscellaneous up to a capital offense. Bullying should be a capital offense of the school system. It should be #1 thing to stop, because it's carried on by cowards, people that they don't. One way to stop bullying would be to ask another bully to whoop another bully, and then that won't happen. What usually happens is when they pick on a small, defenseless person. And the procedure that we're looking at it y'all have now, it needs to be enforced to a better degree, somehow like on the civil order. You should, I would ask that you come up with a policy from the miscellaneous to the capital punishment, give y'all all the authority to determine the penalties for the person that committed the act and whatever the act was and how severe it was. We as the Murray County Commission have provided every school a resource officer. We spent a lot of taxpayers' money trying to protect our children, and it's been they've done a good job. But we got to have something to deter this, because this guy had done it 3 times. This was his 3rd time. I would ask that y'all would come up with something that would be a capital offense, that child, whoever it was, could never set foot in the public school again. They had to go to a resource officer, and it would have to take psychiatric treatment before he could ever even think about coming into the system. And I can't, the procedure y'all have, you can talk and talk and talk. But if I know that if I bullied somebody that I'm never going to be able to go to school again, I'm going to have to face criminal court, and it should be pushed by you gentlemen and ladies to the maximum of criminal offense, because that's what it is. And then when he gets that done, then y'all deal with that in the same way that in the way that you feel like you need to do. We can't, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not judging anybody for doing anything, but I would like to see you treat bullying as about the worst thing going in Murray County schools. And then when you sit down, and when you sit down and determine what degree, what we want to do, what I want to do, what some of the other people want to do, give y'all a procedure. It's totally up to y'all. What you deserve, what you think this incident that happened deserves the degree that y'all need punishment, but they need punishing severely. I appreciate the commission, appreciates what y'all do. You do a good job, and I know it's really hard to do, but if you would just try to come up with a procedure that would tell these people, hey, if you bully, you're going to pay the price, and make the price so high that they'll think twice before they're doing it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Roddy. We always appreciate when our commissioners come to give us input as we Really appreciate all the public's input. And I think I speak on behalf of the board that all board members are very concerned and sensitive regarding bullying. And I would encourage everyone to continue to stay involved and continue to just give us input. There's a lot of good ideas that came out of the discussion tonight, including I think the SROs. I think they may be a very valuable resource to get their input. And so I'd ask the director to maybe consider maybe getting a group of the SROs together to also give some input on ways we can improve our disciplinary procedures and our disciplinary policies. I'd love to get their input as well. So again, I would encourage everyone to continue to give us that input. Our director has, as some of you all may or may not know, he's kind of hit the ground running. He's been with us for about 6 months now, a little over 6 months when we hired him, and so he's been tackling a lot of issues throughout the district. And I have confidence that he's going to he cares about this issue. Is going to look into this issue to try to make some substantial changes to try to improve the system, and that's what we all want to do, is continue to improve the process. Okay. All right. Next thing, our next person that signed up, we have somebody from the Boys and Girls Club, but that item is actually on our regular agenda, so we'll just take that up when we get to that part of the agenda. All right, no staff reporting. We're now on the consent agenda. You all have had this agenda for a while, and there's some items on the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull any of those things off the consent agenda and vote on them separately?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Dudley.
can we discuss, I think we've got 3 items, basically discuss all of them separate.
All right, so you want to take up each one individually?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dudley?
Yes, sir.
I'm not opposed to that, so let's just go through it one at a time. We have the minutes. Do you want to vote on those separately, or you just want to have discussion on those separately, Mr. Dudley?
No, I just, we can discuss them and vote all at once. I just got some questions about a
Okay,
couple of them.
all right, so let's bring up the minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? All right, next item, we have school trips. Any discussion on school trips?
Yes,
Mr. Dudley.
Chairman. Is Mr. Perriman here? Question I have, Mr. Perriman, is all these trips been taken on private transportation buses?
As far as the out-of-town trip?
Yes.
I do believe so. It's either parents are transporting them, or they are going on charter buses.
Okay. The majority of them's, or a lot of them's out of state. A lot of them are communities that are some distance away, and I just was curious if all of them were using public transportation.
No, sir. All the ones going out of state that are overnight are using something other than us.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other discussion on item B of the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Dudley.
As far as the facilities, this board has established user fees to help cover cost associated with our buildings and then our grounds and everything. And a lot of these, oftentimes we waive the user fee because the user actually has some benefit to our academic standards or to our students. So I have no problem with that, but I mean, part of those costs, we have utility costs and cleanup costs, and there's supposed to be a staff member there while these facilities are being utilized, and that's what our user fees goes towards. The one I have the biggest concern about is when did we start allowing our facilities to be used for baby showers? I mean, I feel like if we start opening up for baby showers, next thing we're going to do is family reunions and everything else. And I don't see that really has a real benefit to our educational system.
Mr. Dudley, I believe are you referring to item 4 under section C?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could speak to that, since that came through our office. On that particular one, we have had some events like showers and wedding receptions that the community wanted to use, but in all those cases, we have required fees to be applied, and you can see fees are being applied here and insurance is provided. So in those cases, we felt like it was a legitimate community use of the facilities. So, but if it'd be the pleasure of this board for us not to do that, then we would not. But we have had to have a few requests for things that would be personal kind of events, but they've requested to use the school. In all those cases, we do apply fees and require insurance.
Okay.
And if I'm looking at item 4, that does, so we are applying the facility fee. We're
Yes,
not
sir.
waiving that.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Braden, while you're there, number 6, private volleyball practice lessons. I mean, is a instructor receiving fees for offering this instruction, or what's the layout there?
I must tell you, I do not know the answer. I'd have to defer to the principal of the school because they recommended that the fees would be waived. So I would have to defer that possibly to that Spring High School to Dr. Potts. I'm not sure.
And is the VBS, is that Vacation Bible School, maybe? No, that wouldn't be, that'd be VBS, wouldn't it?
No, it's
VBC.
Well, that's VBC.
This is our volleyball coach. She's wanting to raise money for the program because it's not funded by the schools. So that's what she's using that for. That's why we're asking that the fees be waived.
Okay, why are they having to use a Vacation Bible School?
That's not, it's volleyball. It's some type of volleyball.
Okay. All right, I apologize then, so it is
Yeah, it's not,
school-related
it
to
doesn't
our
have
coach.
anything to do with the church or anything to do with Vacation Bible School.
Okay.
They're using it as a summer camp to raise money for their program.
Okay, thank you. I just urge that we look at these, and I know it's a fine line of stepping over, but, you know, we can't waive all of the fees, and, you know, now, like I say, if it ties in with some legitimate use and to our educational curriculum or to our students, that's one thing, but, you know, I think sometimes we're stretching the line on others. Thank you. That's all I had, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Mr. Dudley, and I appreciate you keeping a close eye on those things. Is any other discussion on the consent agenda? Mr. Lindsay.
Just one question under volunteer coaches. Assistant cheerleading coach, I guess, is a new position, but I see that maybe it's a coincidence or a typo, but the same person is going to be assistant cheerleading coach at EA Cox and at Mount Pleasant High School, I see. So they're going to be pretty busy then.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I do have one other.
Yes, Mr. Dudley.
Since we now have a countywide athletic director, can we start running these volunteer coaches through his department where he can ensure that they meet our standards and have the proper background checks and stuff? I think that's what that department sort of set up.
So, Mr. Director, if you want to give some input on that.
Yes, we can. And this does come from Larry Brown's office, so not a problem. Yes, sir.
All right, any other discussion on the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Dudley, second by Mr. Pennings. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. The motion passes 10-0. All right, on to committee reports. We got zoning facilities. Chair Moore, it looks like you've got 4 recommendations from your committee. If you could just give us the thumbnail version of all those recommendations, please.
I will try my best to go through those. I think, Stan may need to, Mr. Breed may need to fill in where I dropped the ball. The first one we do have here, and we discussed quite a few things at that meeting. The first one we do have is the item A, architectural services. The motion that we had come to the conclusion on was that we would, and you would, if you reference your notes, we had an option 3 there that basically was utilizing the request for RFQ approach to develop a relationship with engineering firms, specialized disciplines, design build bid for single system repairs, improvements, roofs, HVAC, et cetera. Utilize that approach to select an architectural firm for new construction and major renovations. Option 3 included in that was the option at the discretion of the department to be able to also include a construction management firm in that process. So I think the short answer is we are moving away from a single contract with a single architectural firm and moving to a more of a fluid approach that our department felt like would let us react to depending on the nature of the project that comes up. The second item is item B, the EMG proposal. Essentially what that was after using the School Dude software, EMG has, based on the report that they did for us, they are able to input a schedule of maintenance for preventative maintenance for all of the items that they reviewed in their assessment. They will be able to go ahead and key all that into the School Dude software we already have so that our department can utilize preventative maintenance systems in that software. And that was for a total of $11,430. And I believe it does come from Capital Projects Fund 141. Item C